Legends of Runeterra separates its units into two types, followers and champions. Followers are just your standard run-of-the-mill unit like in any other card game. You play them, they do a thing, and you can attack with them. Pretty basic stuff. Where things get screwy is when you look at the champions. They can do all the things a regular unit can do, but also have the ability to level up, should you fulfill a certain condition, becoming stronger in the process. Now, most champions are cards that you build your deck around, whether they be a card that generates value or your entire win condition, like the commander in Magic the Gathering's EDH format, or the center of an idol group. As such, you could get the general idea of what kind of deck said champion would be slotted into pretty easily, especially when compared to followers. However, as a consequence, champions were pretty limited in what deck archetypes they could be played in. Yeah, that Irelia Spellslinger deck isn't going to happen. Sorry. The power of a champion is balanced between three aspects: the initial effect that occurs when you play the champion, the level up condition, and the effect that occurs when said champion is leveled up. These three aspects all balance each other out when determining a champion's overall strength. Champions with explosive abilities upon level up usually have absurd conditions to level them up, while champions with fairly mundane abilities often level up pretty easily. The champions with the absurd level up conditions, however, were typically more fun to play. It was just satisfying being able to pull off a nutty level up that tips the scales of a battle deep in your favor, bringing us to the champion with probably the nuttiest level up condition of them all. Twisted Fate is arguably the best 4-cost card in the entire game of Legends of Runeterra. When you initially play him, he allows you to either draw a card, deal 1 damage to all enemies on the board, or stun and damage the strongest enemy on the board. He has an incredible amount of power upon leveling up, allowing the player to draw a card, deal chip damage to everything, and stun and damage the strongest enemy unit every single turn. But it is balanced by the absurd level up condition of having to draw almost an entire hand's worth of cards with Twisted Fate present on the board. So, if you drew 7 cards and then the opponent killed him, well, tough beans, you've got to start the whole level up process all over again. But it wasn't Twisted Fate's level up ability that made him so powerful. Let's discuss 3 followers in Legends of Runeterra. The first is Shadow Assassin. She was a staple Ionia card during Foundations and Rising Tides and was probably the strongest 3-cost card at the time. I know it sounds weird saying it now considering that she's considered a joke, but back then Shadow Assassin was a 2/2 with Elusive, which is a really strong stat line for the elusive keyword. There's a reason so many elusive units either have pathetic stats or absurd causes. To top it all off, she could draw a card in a time when card draw was scarce, pushing her from good to an auto-include in every Ionia deck. Naturally, she got nerfed along with a lot of other elusive cards and was almost immediately forgotten. The devs tried to readjust her a little to make her somewhat playable, but nothing could get her back to her former glory. In fact, I'm pretty sure you could revert her back to her original stat line and she still wouldn't be good in the current meta. Moving on to the next follower is Arachnoid Sentry, a 3-mana 3/2 that stuns an enemy. A solid effect that makes it a staple in Noxus decks as a tech card. And the last follower is Chempunk Shredder, who basically offers AoE removal for a high cost. So looking at these followers and looking at Twisted Fate, you should get an idea on why he was such a powerful champion. Twisted Fate was basically Shadow Assassin, Arachnoid Sentry, and Chempunk Shredder all rolled into one card. You didn't even need his level up effect, just the initial play was enough to be useful, and as such, he was played in many decks. Not as a champion, but as a tech card that could be either used to cycle through your deck, wipe a board of peons, or neuter a big meatball for a turn. Of course, Twisted Fate's powerful level up ability also loomed large with any deck that played him, and this made Twisted Fate kind of an issue for both players and the developers. For the players, Twisted Fate was a bomb waiting to explode. The opponent already got what they wanted when they first played him, but if you let him sit there and level up, he was going to snowball the game and steamroll you. As such, it was common practice that if your opponent played Twisted Fate, you kill him immediately. He got nerfed, but was still good due to the aforementioned fact that people played him mostly for being a versatile tech card rather than a game-winning bomb, but that's like saying people can use pipe bombs as clubs rather than explosives. However, Twisted Fate was also kind of an issue in regards to balance. Card games make their bread and butter on releasing expansions that players buy up. Well, Legends of Runeterra doesn't, but Legends of Runeterra is like Girls Front Line, where its entire purpose is to hemorrhage money, only it gets treated like garbage because Legends of Runeterra requires money to sustain itself, unlike Girls Front Line, which can do so by crushing people's hopes and dreams as well as sucking the souls of weaker gacha games. But back to the previous point. When releasing an expansion, you've got to toe a very thin line with the new cards because if you're not careful, you risk turning a previously pointless card into an absurd monster. This would in fact happen in Legends of Runeterra when the Unholy Trinity made its debut, turning 2 useless cards into 2 vital pieces of 2 incredibly toxic decks. But anyways, Twisted Fate was a problem card because his existence meant the devs couldn't add ways for players to cycle through their deck without turning him from powerful to absolutely busted. As such, while it was tragic, it honestly wasn't surprising when he got rotated when rotation was introduced. So that was Twisted Fate, the strongest follower of Legends of Runeterra. I just realized I never talked about any decks that use him. It's probably not important. Thanks for watching, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for future videos, and I'll see you next time.